Do you know what's common between all these great personalities? Mahatma Gandhi, a soft spoken yet powerful leader. Elon Musk, world's richest person. Bill Gates, the co founder of Microsoft. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors. They are all introverts and they don't love the limelight or public speaking. Gandhi once struggled to voice his opinion when he was asked to speak up. Elon Musk calls himself a bad speaker. Bill Gates once confessed, I wish I could be as magical as Steve Jobs when it comes to public speaking. And Warren Buffett said he was terrified of public speaking and took a course in Dale Carnegie's public speaking. Now let's play a mini quiz and see if you are an introvert. Answer true or false to the answer that applies to you most. Do you prefer one on one conversations to group? Do you prefer to express yourself more in writing? Do you seem to care less than your peers about wealth, fame, and status? Are you a big risk taker? Do you prefer not to show or discuss your work with others until it's finished? Do you tend to think before you speak? And do you feel drained after being out and about, even if you have enjoyed yourself? The more often you answer true, the more introverted you probably are. And how do you know if an introvert likes you? He looks at your shoes instead of his. To understand who are introverts and extroverts as the world classifies, now let's take a look at some of their attributes. Carl Jung, the most popular psychologist, popularized the terms extrovert and introvert in his book Psychological Types. Introverts are more drawn to the inner world of thought and feeling, and extroverts to the life of people and activities. Introverts focus on the meaning they make of the events. Extroverts plunge themselves right into the event themselves. Introverts recharge their batteries by being alone, while extroverts need to recharge when they don't socialize enough. If you love less stimulation, enjoy an evening sipping on wine with a close friend, solve crossword puzzles, or read a book, then there's no doubt you are an introvert. Whereas if you're cranking up the stereo, meeting new people, skiing 1 minute to hiking the next minute, then hello, you are an extrovert. Most of my friends and coworkers are extroverts. I remember this one coworker who was so comfortable multitasking and risk taking. He was always quick to tackle all the assignments that was given to him, and he used to make some very quick and rash decisions too. I used to call him the Red Bull worker. He enjoyed the thrill of the chase for rewards like money and status, but he was also the life of any party and used to laugh generously. He was comfortable with talking rather than listening, and he would say, I would rather have a problem than have no one. And if you've not already guessed it, I'm an introvert. I love to focus on one task at a time and can work hours with great concentration. I have enjoyed deep connections with my close friends and family rather than having to go out to social get togethers. If I do end up going to one of them, I immediately get back home, get into my pajamas, and I need to unwind. And many people find it surprising that I don't prefer small talk, but I really enjoy deep conversations. And introverts are risk averse. Should I speak or not? The fight or flight response kicks in and makes us more anxious than we need to be. Last year, for the first time, I was interviewed by a relatively famous personality who has a good following on social media. Now, this person was an expert and she was interviewing me on this subject that she knew very well. I had her assistant work with me on all the logistics, and there were reminders for the meetings and promotions on social media, and everything made me nervous. On the day of the interview, there was an audio and video check just moments before we could start, and I was told that my audio levels were low, so I had to speak up and also not speak over the interviewer. So we had to wait and take turns to speak and not speak at the same time. As nervous as I was, we got started, and I was terrified when the interviewer decided to go with her own set of questions rather than the ones that I had prepared for. Oh my God, taking turns to talk, talking louder, and doing a ridiculous extempore made the entire interview terrible. I felt so miserable and restless that all I wanted to do was just go lay down and pull a blanket over me. And guess what? I did that. I did pull the blanket over me. But my mind could not rest. All the while, I was replaying all the many things that went wrong in my mind. Oh, I should have said this instead of that. Why did I say that? Oh God, I wish I had smiled more. But then I realized something. I bounced back up and quickly jotted down a few things. I knew self pity was not getting me anywhere, and I had to work on myself. At last, but not the least, I hoped that the interview would never make it on social media anywhere. And sometimes, when you really dread something, guess what? That becomes true. The interview went up on social media, and the next thing I wanted was that no one should ever get to see it. Now, this brings me to another interesting question. If the way I was brought up had something to do with me being an introvert, my parents are both introverts. My entire family is on the quieter side, which might be, similar to some of you here as well. Or can it be genetics? Can introversion be something that can be passed down through generations? And this is a question of nature versus nurture. In a book called Quiet, Susan Cain talks about a research at Harvard that was done with 500 4-month old infants for 45 minutes by a developmental psychologist, Kagan. Can you imagine spending 45 minutes with 500 infants? I could not manage my kids even one at a time when they were infants. Anyway, Kagan and his team, they did this research at Harvard where they exposed these 4-month-olds to a set of new experiences. And the infants heard tape recorded voices, balloons popping, saw colorful mobiles hanging, dancing before their eyes, and also inhaled a scent of alcohol on cotton swabs. They had wildly varying reactions to these new stimuli. Some of them cried loudly and pumped their arms and legs. They were called the high reactives, and some stayed quiet, moving their arms and legs occasionally. Now, this group was called the low reactives. Some were in between these two varying reactions. Kagan predicted that the high reactives would turn out to be quiet teenagers. They conducted similar tests with the same children after every few years. And it was astonishing. As predicted, the high reactive infants turned out to be introverts. Who would have thought that? My guess was that the high reactives might be extroverts. Introverts by nature seem to be reactive to new stimuli much more than the extroverts. They consider new experiences and situations as threat. They are constantly on the alert mode, whereas extroverts tend to welcome new experiences and situations. And they are not reactive to newness. To understand this, let's first look at how the psychologists differentiate between temperament and personality. Temperament is inborn, biologically based emotional and behavioral pattern, and personality is what emerges after cultural influence and personal experience all combined. Some say that temperament is the foundation and the personality is the building. So there are some studies that go to show that introversion and extroversion are traits that can have some genetic basis. The scientists came to this conclusion after studying several twins raised in separate households. People have had some inherited qualities, but we might have also seen how many have profoundly changed over time. Haven't we come across people who felt uncomfortable in a foreign city for the first time, but who love to travel? People who fear public speaking, but they are some of the best public speakers. Contradictions to personalities are possible. So then, do introverts fear public speaking because they are high reactives? Some high reactors love public speaking and performing. Plenty of extroverts do have stage fright. Public speaking phobias has many causes, including early childhood setbacks, and that has to do with our own unique personal experiences and not inborn temperament. People who inherit certain traits tend to seek out life experiences that reinforce those characteristics. The lowest reactive kids, for example, they court danger from time to time as kids. They might have climbed over fences, or they become desensitized, climb even over the roofs later. They tend to have all sorts of experiences that other kids don't early on. They tend to work with increasing degrees of danger and excitement, whereas high reactive kids may be more likely to develop into artists and writers and scientists and thinkers because they dislike novelty and they like to be in a place they love best, which is their own heads. Now, fear of public speaking, called glossophobia, is a real thing. Always we have to give the phobias some real cool name. And glosso means a tongue, word, speech. And remember, this happens to anyone, whether they are an introvert or an extrovert. Maybe the degree to which an introvert might feel it could be more. Fear of public speaking is not so much related to the quality of the speech. It is more of how the speaker feels, thinks, and acts when faced with public speaking. When we understand what exactly causes it, it might get easier to tackle it. So let's see what are the four theories that are behind the fear of public speaking. One, physiology. Fear and anxiety involve the arousal of the autonomic nervous system, which makes us more nervous because it considers it as a threat. So our bodies get ready to battle. This hyper arousal leads to emotional experience of fear, and it interferes with our ability to perform comfortably in front of audiences. Eventually, it prevents people from pursuing any sort of opportunities for public speaking. And some people experience what researchers call as anxiety sensitivity or the fear of fear. Anxiety sensitivity means that in addition to being worried about public speaking, people are worried about their anxiety about public speaking and how their anxiety will affect their ability to perform in challenging communication situations. So, along with worrying about whether they will accomplish their objectives for their speech, people also have high anxiety sensitivity, worry about whether they will come across as increasingly overwhelming and anxious in front of their audience, and whether they will come across as shaky speakers. Our ancestors who lived in the forest, for them, being watched intently meant only one thing, that a wild animal was about to pounce on them. When we think we are about to be eaten, do we stand tall, look confident? No, we run. Hundreds of thousands of evolution later, here we are standing on the stage and we have spectators watching us intently. And we are asked to look confident, smile, and look relaxed. The conflict between biology and protocol is one reason public speaking can be so frightening, and virtual meetings are a blessing in disguise because no one can see your shaky legs, right? All you need to do is look confident, neck up. The number two reason is thoughts. Another factor that involves people's beliefs about public speaking and about themselves as speakers. The fear often arises when people overestimate the stakes of communicating their ideas in front of others, viewing the speaking event as a potential threat to their credibility, image, and a chance to reach an audience. And negative views of oneself as a speaker. Maybe I'm not so good at speaking in front of crowds. I'm not a good public speaker. I am boring, etc. Can also raise the anxiety and augment the fear of public speaking in public situations. We are in constant fear of being evaluated. Like for today, if I focus on, oh my God, I'm a conference speaker and so many people are listening to me, I hope, then it's going to cause the unnecessary fear. Rather, I can switch my thoughts and say that I feel so grateful that I get to share my thoughts with an exciting audience. Maybe someone might be inspired to take up public speaking more and not let their personality or their labels that they give themselves deter them from sharing their value with the world. That's a simple switch in the thought process, right? So the next time you feel the fear coming up before you speak, turn the switch on. Number three, situations can be simple new experiences, new audiences, lack of experience, or the degree of evaluation. Now, the lack of experience is, as with anything else, experience builds confidence. When you don't have a lot of stage hours under your belt, you're more likely to experience the fear of public speaking. When there is a real or imagined evaluation component to the situation, the fear is stronger. If you're speaking in front of a group of people who have the evaluation forms ready to be filled out, now you may feel more anxious. Remember when the alarming announcement comes in during contest speeches, unmute and say, "Good morning, contest chair," which made me so nervous when everyone is waiting to just hear me speak. The status difference could be if you're about to speak in front of people of higher status, such as people at your workplace, in higher positions, or groups of accomplished professionals in your line of work. You may feel that higher dose of fear tingling through your body. And new ideas, if you are sharing ideas that you have not yet shared in public, you may worry about how people will receive them. When your public appearances involves presenting something new, you may feel more uncomfortable stating your position, taking questions from the audience, or dealing with those audience members who try to poke holes. And new audiences, you may already have the experience of speaking in public and presenting to familiar situations. You may, for instance, be used to speaking in front of professionals in your area of expertise. If you're standing in front of an audience that is very different from the people who you're usually used to speak to, your confidence could be a little shaky. Finally, the fourth one is skills that contributes to the fear of public speaking is how skilled you are in this area. While many people consider themselves as naturally good speakers, there is always room for growth. And I love this because this is actually a really good one. People who work on their skills instead of relying on their natural talent are the better speakers who really stand out, which is why most of us are here. I realized that I had to learn to talk just a little bit more. So sometimes people cannot right away classify me as an introvert. When I talk to a group of people, meet strangers, I smile as wide as I can. But there's this split second that feels like I'm stepping on high wire. And when we're constantly feeding our brains small doses of this threat experience, we learn how to handle things better. And this is called desensitization technique. The best way to conquer phobias means exposing yourself to the thing you're afraid of over and over and over again in manageable doses. And you want to stretch to the outer limits of your temperament, which will build on to your personality. I remember being an elastic girl from The Incredibles. So we want to keep stretching until we get to the stage where we feel slightly uncomfortable handling pressures and it even becomes second nature to us. And also remember, there's only so much we can stretch. So stretch to the right extent where we continue to enjoy what we're doing and it should not become a drag. The mechanics of giving the presentation don't monopolize your attention and focus. Repetition frees your mind to tell your story in a dynamic and authentic way. Clink! This was a big light bulb moment for me because I can keep working, keep working, and polish my skills that I no longer have to worry about the mechanics. And I can speak in an authentic way, speak from my heart. Also, we need to bring in our innate strengths. Researchers have found that introverts have something to a greater degree than extroverts, which is persistence. The shiny object syndrome might be less attractive to an introvert. And this is where focus and determination can be our way to tackling public speaking fear. Einstein, who is an introvert, once said, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's that I stay with problems longer." We need to start somewhere. And even if we keep stumbling and falling, even if we think we are losing, we are still winning. The first interview for me turned out to be terrible, but that did not stop me. The way we characterize our past setbacks can profoundly influence how we look at our current life and future. It made me more determined and madder in a good way. I realized that I had to learn a lot, grow a lot, and improve a lot. And remember my blanket moment? I got back up and jotted down something, and this is what it is. Clear why. Have a clear why. Why are you here? And what's your number one goal with speaking? If your goal is to become the best public speaker, then every step in this journey will be an experience and a lesson to grow and improve. It gets easy when we focus on the big picture. If your goal is to be the best professional paid speaker, then your intensity and focus will be a lot more. Having a clear why can break all barriers. There will be no question of an introvert or an extrovert coming into picture. These are just labels that we give ourselves. We are always striving to learn and grow more. Number two is break down your goals. If my goal is to get good and comfortable at public speaking, then remember we need to constantly feed our brains those experiences in small doses. So if we take a pathways project and say it has 13 speeches, then I would do one speech every month and schedule it on the agenda and don't back out. Close the back door. Irrespective of how I feel, I give one speech every month and I do a live every month. So I'm constantly training my brain, small doses. Every week, there should be a healthy competition to see how best we can take up a role in our clubs. And the reason we are doing this is because we have a clear why. Always, always, always go back to your number one, which is having a clear why. SWOT, the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. I know what makes me nervous. Extempores, new audiences, new experiences, being a Toastmaster, table topics, hosting a meeting, being evaluated. I would say everything. But my simple tips are standing while speaking, which helps me to feel more grounded and confident. I wear shoes that make me feel sporty, peppy, and lively. And I do a power pose before speaking and deep breathing, which makes me confident. I record myself during self practices and make changes. I'm regular to club meetings so I don't feel rusty. And also, I get to observe how other speakers are doing. I signed up for the contest speech, became a vice president membership, so I get to interact with more new people. And now here I am giving a conference speech. So any opportunity that presents itself, I make good use of it. So it's going to help me grow and learn more. And all these simple doses helped me to get on to the TEDx stage. And I got to give my TEDx talk. We saw how great leaders are introverts and who have, just like you and me, have learned the skill of public speaking. And we saw who have these attributes, the qualities and strengths of who's an extrovert and who's an introvert. And we also got into the biology of knowing ourselves at a deeper level with a bigger question of, is it a nurture versus nature and temperament and personality. We discussed how fear of public speaking is common and there's nothing new, and the theories that make it seem worse than it actually is. But the best of all, that the skills training can beat this fear. And lastly, know your clear why. Break down your goals and how Toastmasters can really help you shine through in spite of all your weaknesses. You can outgrow it. So, what are your dreams and goals? Every time I speak, it's a personal victory for me. It does not matter how good or bad the outcome was, because I was courageous as an introvert. I can learn to love public speaking just like how some of the great personalities have. And Carmen Gallo, in his book Talk Like TED, says ideas are the currency of the 21st century. Your ideas will change the direction of your life and potentially change the world. Don't let anything, including negative labels, stand in your way. All you need is examples, techniques, passion, and practice. You also need courage, the courage to follow your passion, articulate your ideas simply, and express what makes your heart sing. Thank you.